Here is my city where I was born and I lived all my life before I was taken to the concentration camps. The name of the city is Bialystok.
Were you in Auschwitz?
Silke.
Schluckles mir in die Tatzen, wer wird Tatzen mich schatzen? Oi, oi, Gott ist größer, hat doch gewünscht mein Häuser, die wir sind gegeben, ich Häuser, wir sind ausgegeben, die wir sind ausgegeben. Starker, freilich, ich die Malke, du der Melech, oi, oi, ich allein hoch mit meinen Augen.
Another episode. Here we are at Our Lives, Our Future, here in the Chula Vista Public Library. I'm sponsored by the Chula Vista Heritage Museum and the South Bay Historical Society, and I'm really excited today because we have Ben Midler. Before we get started, remember, you get free masks here in our library. Also, if you're interested, we have our magazine, RUTH, Remember Us the Holocaust, and this was made at Southwestern College. You just have to ask when you come into the library. I just want to get past all this. Okay. Ben, hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Very good.
You totally amaze me, and you have so much to say, so I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to have fun with it.
All right.
When were you born? Where were you born? And how was life before the Holocaust?
I was born in Bialystok, Poland. Life before the Holocaust was very good. I went to the Hebrew school. The kids, Bialystok usually was a lot of a population of Jews. We were 65% Jewish people. Mm-hmm. They could hear the Yiddish on the street and not Polish. Bialystok itself was very industrial city. A lot of people worked in the factories like knitting, fabric, shoes, and tailor shops. And life was very good for everybody. My parents owned a milk dairy. My father was going to the farms, collecting milk and selling them to distributors, and wherever was left over, doing byproducts. We had a very wonderful life. Saturdays, we always cooking the food, taking to the baker, putting in food because we're not allowed to cook. And we had a lot of temples close by because we're not allowed to drive on Saturdays. So every second street was a small temple that people would go on Saturdays to pray. And everything was fine until the war broke out in 1939. The Germans declared war on Poland. In September of 25, they took over. They came to Bialystok, our city, and they were for 1 week. Only we didn't know what happened, and we saw the Russian come in. We find out this the Russian and the German made the agreement between them. They divide Poland in two parts. One part, the eastern part of Poland, went to the Russian, and the western part went to Germany. Life on the Russian side was very regular, except all the businesses had to shut down. People couldn't do any business anymore except going to the factories and do some work. A lot of people from the western part of Poland ran away because they know what is waiting for them. So they came to Bialystok. We tried to accommodate them. We put them in the temples wherever we couldn't go pray because the Russians didn't allow even to work on the religion. So we put them in the temples. We put them in any place we could, and then they allowed to get settled the people that came over from the western part. Only they told them they got to take Russian passport, and they were afraid if they take Russian passport they wouldn't be able to go back to their houses, so they refused. So the Russians took and they put them on trains and took them to Siberia. That's why part of the Russian, wherever you see the war in Siberia, there's all these Jews wherever ran away from the western part of Poland, and they lived in Siberia until the end of the war. When Poland made the agreement with the Russian, all the Polish people should be allowed to go back to Poland.
Oh my God. gosh, how old were you in 1939?
11 years old.
11 years. What do you do? What do your parents tell you? What did they say? You wanted to go to get an ice cream. You can't go. You want to go here. You can't go. What's it like when you're 11 years old?
Was very just for 1 week. When the Russian came in, we were free to roam around wherever we want. We could go to the stores. We could go to schools. Only no preaching religion.
You were the oldest.
I was the oldest
of 3 children.
Right.
May I do this?
Yes.
And you can see that he's the oldest.
My youngest, my brother was at that age was 8 years old, and my sister was 5 years old.
This is your beautiful. Don't worry, Harry. I'll be able to zoom in. This is your beautiful family. Correct?
Yes.
And
I'm the oldest.
This is you're the oldest. Wow. Unreal. So 1939, 1940. Does somebody tell you that you have to wear a star?
No, we had the Russian to 1941. That's when it come down. In 1941, Germany declared war on Russia, so they took over all Poland. And then they came over, it was in June 22nd. The reason I remember all the dates and everything else, I don't have to look up any papers and any books, because all is in my memory, I never forget a thing.
Sure.
And the reason why I remember exactly June 22nd, because I was born on June 27th, I was supposed to have bar mitzvah and I couldn't have it. So my bar mitzvah in 2016, when I was 88 years old, I had my bar mitzvah in Chabad of Poway.
Now, you know, Ruthie had her bat mitzvah at the age of 90 because of the same reason.
Yes.
She couldn't, yeah. Were you scared? Were you scared when you had your bar mitzvah?
No.
Ruthie was a little scared, but when she realized what she was doing, and just remember, at the age of 88, you went from a boy to a man.
Yes, don't forget one thing. I was in Israel and I know Hebrew perfect.
Oh my gosh.
And then I went to Hebrew school before the war. So everything is in...
You've got Hebrew down.
Yes.
Yeah, which is amazing. Then, 1939, 1940, 1941, what happens?
1941, when the German came back, they made all the Jews wear the Jewish star.
Okay.
And after 1 month, they told all the Jews to go into a small part of the city. They called it the ghetto. And my father at that time was already taken, got killed, because they rounded up the first month when they came in June. On July, they rounded up 5,000 people. My father was between them, and they took him out to the forest, and they killed him in a mass grave. I went back to Poland. I took my family in 2004. All my daughters with their grandchildren. We were 14 people. I took them to all the camps, and I took it to my hometown. And the guide, we had a minivan, and the guy took us to the place where was the mass grave, and they put up a monument over there, and I said Kaddish in the same time. So in August of 1941, they took everybody and they told me go into a ghetto. My mother and my younger brother and sister, and even my grandmother, we had lived in one room. We went to my uncle because the place where the ghetto was in my uncle's house, was between them. We were, every family was in one room. So could you imagine how to live? Kids, parents with kids in one room, not only beds, we were sleeping on the mattresses or wherever could find on the floor. The German made rationing food, and it was a lot of people were going hungry and were very undernourished. So the people went to look for work because it was rather, like I say, industrial city. I myself went to work in a tailor shop as a presser because I was only 15 years old. 14 at that time, and I couldn't work as a tailor, so the manager of the tailor shop, because my parents knew him, so he took me on as a presser just to get a certificate to be able to get rationing of food. In 1943, or February 25, they rounded up people. It was a deportation of Jews. We didn't know where they take him, only we knew something is wrong. They say we take him to work, only we knew because Treblinka was not far from us, and some people ran away. Jewish people cut to the floors of the train, and they ran away, and one of the people came back and he told us, don't wait if somebody come back, because all of them were taken to Treblinka. And we know Treblinka at that time was extermination camp. So after that happened, the deportation, my uncle and was two more uncles living in the same apartment, decided to build a hiding place. How we built the hiding place? In Poland there was no basement, it was cellars. Because the reason was cellars because there was no refrigeration, and for the summer they kept vegetables and food they kept in the cellar. So from the cellar, one of the windows, we made an exit to the garden, and we put up, like in a mine, we put up wood on top of the ceiling and on the sides, so the ground wouldn't fall in, and we took the ground far away, because if they see the ground close by, they'll know something is going on. In August 16, 1943, the Germans decided to deliquidate the ghetto completely. Only was a few Jews, young people, and they tried to fight back by slowing down the Germans to come in. The reason they know they can stand against the German army, because they came with tanks. The only reason they did it, to let people, wherever wants to run away to the forest, and they want themselves to run away. So they start fires, they burned the houses around the fence of the ghetto, and my uncle's house was 2 blocks from there, so we smelled smoke. And we were on the hiding place, my uncle and his son and me, we went out in the yard to check, and the Germans were waiting for us, and they told us, move. We told the people, they took us to a field. The field they called Petrasha Field was not far from the train station, and because there were so many people, they couldn't get trains, all of them taking one day. Took 7 days until they, on the 5th day, one of the Germans, a few officers, the canes had a round handle, so they put around the neck for some people, between my uncle and his son and me, and they put us in 3 separate cars. We didn't know what's going on. Only when the train went, the rest of the train went to Treblinka. These 3 cars, and every car was 150 people, was only room for standing, not even sitting down, or was back to back. And these 3 trains, they left on a railroad line by itself. The train went to Treblinka, they came back, they hooked us up and took us to Majdanek. Majdanek at that time was a labor and extermination camp. There was no work there, we was just taking stones or gravel from one place to another. One day, because the German fought the Russian front, and at that time the winter was very cold, so they needed warm clothes. Only we didn't know at that time. Later on we find out why they choose 200 men, tailors and shoemakers, to a different camp. Only we didn't know what they're looking for. They only told us everybody should stand in on the appeal yard, and wherever he worked in the ghetto should tell his profession. My uncle told me because he worked in as an auto mechanic by the army, by the German army. So he told him, once you say it, all you have to do is just hold the wrench, and I'll tell you what to do. We'll be all together. When it came to me, I got scared because I still was only 15 years old. So I didn't want to tell him that I'm a mechanic. I told him the truth, I was a presser. And old behold, They did it, like I say, shoemakers and tailors. And because I was a presser, they took 200 people, sent us to a different camp. All the people wherever left the Majdanek. When I was in 2004, we found a plague. This all the 15,000 people wherever was in the camp was taken out to the forest and got killed. When I came to Blijin, there's a camp in a small town. Over there was shoemakers and tailors, only because they didn't need any pressers, because all the clothing wherever they made is just for the army, and they didn't need any pressing because it was going the way it went. So I worked in a stone quarry, breaking up stones. In this camp, not much food at all. We were getting a slice of bread and marmalade in the morning with imitation coffee, like, I don't know what they called it at that time, they call it Einsatz coffee. And with Einsatz coffee.
Einsatz coffee, okay.
And at lunchtime was soup, only you couldn't find any vegetables. It was only like bouillon soup. And at night I got a slice of bread with margarine. That was all the food. Only because we couldn't wash ourselves. The whole year we were there, no showers, brush the teeth, we were just brushing with the fingers. No brushes, and no paste to clean the teeth. Because of the sanitation, a lot of people died of typhus. I had typhus because I was young, and when people would die, it was laying next to me, and I saw the people don't move. And usually young people like me, wherever we get food, we always eat right away. We don't leave nothing for later. Only older people figured, oh, I'll have it later. Only later never come because they died during the night. So I'm not ashamed to say I took their bread and I eat. After 1 year, when the Russian made the offensive against the German, so they, in May of 1944, they took us to Birkenau-Blijin. And they took us on a march because they couldn't bring the trains close by to Birkenau to Poland. So for a week we walked on the roads between the farms. We didn't walk on the roads because they were afraid this will run away. And people wherever tried to go on the site and take some vegetables from growing over there kill them on the spot. After that, they took us to Sachsenhausen. Over there I was about a month or a month and a half. And wherever I always volunteered. And the reason why I always pushed myself, because you see, when I was taken from the hiding place, I always thought that my parents are still alive. And that kept me going all the 2 years.
Oh, Ben.
That kept me going all the 2 years. I figured I gotta meet them because I know they're alive and I want to be together. So when we came to Birkenau, I walked to dry the swamps around the camp, and we were going like 5 to 6 meters deep, and I was a short guy, and I still tried to do my best to walk. We were there for 6 months until the front, the Russian offensive came close, so they took us to another camp, to Sachsenhausen. Over there again I volunteered to go to Sachsenhausen. I didn't want to stay in Sachsenhausen, so I volunteered, so they sent me to RUTH. In RUTH, on my book, wherever I wrote, you could see on page 80, over there, Eisenhower came with the army, and they took the people from the small town from RUTH to show how the German killed innocent Jewish people, killed them and laying on the floor. And the reason I was not between the dead, because again I volunteered. I figured any camp could not be worse wherever I am. In RUTH we were building tunnels to build the V2. V2 is missiles that they were shooting over England, over London. And so when they took us from RUTH, I went to Babelsberg, that's a suburb of Berlin. The reason they took us there because they needed more people to clean the streets. The Allied forces, bombers, German planes were bombing Berlin, and during the day we were cleaning it up. In April 8 of 1945, we were liberated, and I didn't know where to go. I figured I'll go to Poland. Only I was liberated on the Russian side, so I found a train, and I found one of the train was a Russian officer, a Jewish Russian officer, and he allowed us to go on the train. We were 25 Jews, different ages. I was the youngest, and when we came to Poland, I want to go down. The Polish militia was standing with guns, and they want to take down Jews and kill us. So the Jewish officer said, "Why don't you come with us, help us unload the train?" At that time, the Russians were dismantling factories in Germany, all the machinery, even some of them, even the bricks, they took it to Russia. So when I came to Russia, I was not far inside Russia. I was in Brest-Litovsk, the 60 kilometers from the Polish border. I worked in a commissary, and the commissary were giving out food to the army, wherever they're at the army. Some of them they have to pay a minimal amount. Only I still, all my things is I got to go back to Poland, meet my family. So I met a secretary, was works on the border, and I asked her, I say, my family is alive, and I would like to go and see him. Could I get a pass for 2 weeks? She said, I can't give you a pass for 2 weeks. I'll give you a empty piece of paper with the commandant, with the officer's signature, and you write wherever you want. So I didn't want to write down this going back to Poland. I wrote down 2 weeks vacation. I came back to Poland. I didn't find nobody. I tried to knock on the street. I know Jews were living. When I knocked on the street, I talked in Russian, the lights went out. I talked in Polish, the lights went out. They didn't put back on. So I saw what's going on, and I found a few Jews, and they told us, nothing to do here in Poland, why don't you go to Lodz? Over there is Jewish soldiers, what they fought with the British against the Nazis, a Jewish brigade from Palestine, and they are now in Poland looking for survivors, for they want to go back to Israel, want to go back to Palestine. So I went back to Lodz. From there I was for 6 months, took us until we got to Italy. We didn't have no passport or nothing. They only had the write out a certificate. This we're going to a camp from one country to another, from Poland to Czechoslovakia this way, from Czechoslovakia to Greece, from Greece to Italy. In Italy we went a couple months on a farm until they found some boats. They took fishing boats, made them put in bunks beds. We were on a fishing boat, like 500 people. And we came to Israel, to Palestine at that time, on May of 1946. And because the British had a mandate of Israel, of Palestine, and they didn't allow more than 1,500 people, so they took us, there was British boats, and they took us to Cyprus, from Augusta, a town, and they put us in tents. We were there for 6 months because we were the first one. So in December 1946, I got to Israel, and because I was young, and I say I was still would like to learn, if not a profession, at least to study something, because I didn't finish my studies at all. So they sent me to agriculture school, Magdiel, that's not far from Tel Aviv, and over there I was 1 year until the war broke out in 1948. In 1948, they drafted all the Jewish people from 18 to 55, and because at that time I was already 19 years old, so they drafted. In 1948, the Ben-Gurion, as the head of the Sochnut, the government at that time of Israel, declared a Jewish state. So the Arabs from all surrounding countries like Egypt, Jordan, Syria, in Iraq even didn't have a border with Israel, and they sent soldiers to Syria to Israel to fight the Jews. And the same thing from Lebanon. So I was with the Palmach. At that time was no IDF, Israel Defense Forces, they call it Palmach. I was there for 2 years, from 1948 to 1950, and I fought in Jerusalem. For 3 months we were under siege because they cut off the road from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and we could go back. And we were fighting. Jerusalem was at that time living Jews on one side and Arabs on the other side of the street. So almost were shooting like snipers from one side of the street to the other. After 3 months, one of the soldiers with a jeep found a way to bypass the road wherever the Jordanian army was standing in a police station, and this way they took off the siege of Jerusalem, and after 1 year they took over the most of the country. And there was a fight on Latun in the end of 1948, and we were supposed to go on a higher mountain, and we ended up to be on a lower mountain, and the Jordanian Legion was on top, so they just threw grenades. From 30 people from our group, only 5 were alive, and the rest of them were killed or injured.
Oh, man.
And I was with a very known Ariel Brigade with Yitzhak Rabin, and Ariel was from 3 battalions, 4th and 5th and 6th. I was on the 5th battalion with Chaim Bar-Lev. One time he was even a prime minister of Israel, and we fought for 2 years all over the country until my release of March 1950. In June, then I met my wife when she came from Egypt. In January of 1951, we got married with her sister, a double wedding, and with one of my friends, and I was on a moshav. That's
a double wedding.
Double wedding.
Oh my gosh.
And she was 7 years younger from my mother.
Ben, can I ask you something?
Yes.
You have a tattoo.
Yes.
You want to show it? Yeah. Ben, where and when did they give you the tattoo?
On May or June of 1944.
In Birkenau?
In Birkenau. Birkenau is a branch of Auschwitz.
Right away when you entered, did they give it to you, or was it a day later?
A week later.
A week later. And
because it was a selection, and because we were not under selection because we came from another camp. So we took us straight to the barracks.
Straight. And while you're in the barracks, do they have a table? Do they put your arm? What do they do?
They do it outside. They have a table, and everybody stays in line, and somebody with a needle puts in the numbers. In all the camps, there was no numbers put in on the end. They would put in a number on a piece of fabric.
Right.
On top of the shirt or the jacket, wherever it was wearing. And if a person died, he died. Only with the number, you can't take it away. That's the only place where you give numbers is Auschwitz. Auschwitz got an A.
Birkenau has a B.
Birkenau has a B.
Oscar has a B. My grandfather has a B.
You see?
What's your number?
B 2433.
2433. His is B 11559. So he got his, I think, a little earlier.
Yes.
Ben, you are brilliant. Your brain and the way you think is absolutely brilliant. Your memory is incredible.
Still good today.
It sure is. Now, we are at 1951. You got married.
Right.
Who is this wonderful, handsome looking?
That's myself after liberation.
After you were liberated,
Yes.
this is what you looked like.
Right.
My Lord. Now we come up a little bit by 2 years.
Oh, 4 years.
4 years. Thank you. I'm telling you, when you work with brilliance, it's amazing. 1955, this is what Ben looks like. And who is this beautiful, charming
That's my
woman?
wife. And I'm 69 years marriage.
You're 69 years married now.
In January it'll be 70 years.
Are you having a party?
I don't know, my wife.
Or what are we going to do, a Zoom party? Oh my gosh. You see, this is what is so painful. You see behind me an exhibit. You see who's next to me, an incredible Holocaust survivor who continues to tell his story. You told your story to so many schools, universities, television shows, wrote a book. It's unbelievable. Now my question is, you're in Israel, you get married. How did you end up here in San Diego?
I was in a moshav. That's been farmers on another community living. Every farmer is on his own, because I didn't have any profession. I was young. Could have any profession. I didn't learn any profession. So I figured I would be a farmer. Only I was one of the organizers of the moshav. So I worked to have deals with the Sochnut, with the government, to get parts or things for the moshav, for the people, like seats or horses or stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And my daughter, at that time I had a daughter already, a couple years old, and because the Arabs were infiltrated the border, and they were coming to the between the houses of the moshav, and she was crying all night. So my wife said, we gotta see something to move. So 1 week my wife took her daughter, because she had a cold, she took her to one of her doctors in Haifa, and in this week I put up incubator with small eggs to raise chicken, ducks, and turkeys. In 1 year I made enough money to buy an apartment to go to the city. In 1 week I decided to do it. My wife was not home, and at that time they built the houses for the people, for the farmers, with no carpets, just plain cement floors and nothing in there. So one of the rooms I put up stainless steel sheets around the walls, and I put sats on the floor, and I put the incubator. When my wife came back, at that time I had to take it out, and I said, that's okay, 1 week they're strong enough to be outside. So 1 year I raised, and that's not only that. So I worked in a milk dairy, because all what I knew is milk dairy.
Sure.
So when I went to Haifa, I worked in a milk dairy for 5 years until I came to United States. And the reason I came to United States, in one of the camps in Cyprus, one of the people, wherever was there, he said, I'm writing a letter to my friend, to my relatives in Argentina, Buenos Aires. I said, you know what, I got an aunt in Buenos Aires. And I remembered her married name, not her maiden name. Mm-hmm. Because she got married in 1937 and she moved to Argentina. So I gave him the name, and they ended up to be neighbors. This aunt lived in Argentina. I find out my mother had two brothers in Argentina and one sister. That's the one that she moved in 37. From there I find out these three sisters from mom's family moved to United States in the First World War.
Oh my gosh.
So they were looking for me, not looking for them. They find out because I put in my names, I'm looking for people for my family, and I put on the maiden name of my mother and my father's name. That was my name. I'm looking for people, and they find out this I'm looking, so they send somebody to look for me. So then they send the visa, and after the milk dairy, I came to Chicago. I worked in a milk dairy for 18 years, and then came opportunity to have on a auto parts store. So to be a milkman on an auto parts store, so run a business.
That's amazing.
I ran a business from 78 to 84.
So you ran the auto parts store in Chicago.
Right. In Norwich, Illinois.
Oh my gosh. Why San Diego? You retire, and what made you say, okay, that's it? You didn't want to shovel snow
they told me
anymore?
I got prostate cancer. In 1983, they told me I got to have surgery right away. And you can't go to surgery and be 3 weeks away from a business, but it's a lot of cash business going around. So you can't give to somebody just to have a manager run it. So I decided if I can do that, I can find somebody to trust, I'll retire. So that's what I did. So I came to San Diego, and the reason I came to San Diego, one of the accountants said he was in San Diego, and he was in Rancho Bernardo, he liked the area. I said, okay, we'll try it out.
And you love it?
Yes, I lived in Rancho Bernardo for 27 years.
Oh my gosh. How are you feeling? You had prostate cancer.
I had a surgery in 1990.
And you don't wear glasses. Your eyes are perfect.
I wore glasses only for distance.
Just for distance.
I could read the glasses, I could read with no glasses.
Your teeth, they're all yours.
All mine.
All his. You're a miracle. You know that. You're in perfect shape.
If you see, like I told you this in Majdanek, the first time when they took out 500 people with a round of the cane in separate cars, that was the first miracle. Why would they choose 500 people at that day to take out and put them in a separate cars to take them to a camp when everybody went to Treblinka? The second one was Majdanek. This came to my mind to say a presser, and I'm alive and my uncle is not. And then in Ordruf, why made me to go from one camp to another? Because my father was very hard-working man, and I saw this hard work wouldn't kill him. You got to do whatever you got to do. Always my mind to work on it, how to go and find my family. And that's kept me going all the time.
What did you think when you're that young? Did you pray to yourself?
Always believed in God.
You always believed in God? Always?
Always.
Did anybody come to you and say, what are you doing? And you said, I'm praying. And then they said, well, stop it. Don't pray anymore.
I didn't listen to nobody.
Did anybody ever say that to you?
No.
Okay, because they said that to my mom.
No.
They said, what are you praying for? And she said, just wait. One day, right? What languages do you speak, Ben?
I speak Hebrew in English.
Hebrew, English?
That's it.
That's it. No German, no Russian?
A little
Yiddish.
German and no Polish.
Okay.
And not only that, after I was liberated, and we were in a suburb, you know, every people, not enough food. People was running for food, we were in a suburb. So people ran to the houses to get food, and they got this interior. And I got measles at that time.
You got measles? Oh
so
my
they
gosh.
took me to a hospital because, you know, when you get measles, you get a red spot on the body. So they thought I got the infection. So they took me to a hospital for 1 week, and that's why nothing happened to me.
Ben, when you ate, when you're in a camp and they give you food, did you have silverware? Do you just eat with your hands?
Eat with the hand.
You just is it a bowl, and how do you do it?
The bowl, some people with the hand, sometimes they give you a spoon. Only otherwise, just you drink the soup.
That's it.
That's it.
And then, how did you put the what do you call it? The
margarine.
A knife with your hand? You just
no knives.
No knives. Okay.
They give you a spoon, like say for the spoon or something, so you put it on, or they give you wooden sticks.
Wooden sticks. Okay. If you had to go to the bathroom
during the night, there are spells in the barracks, but in the mornings they take out. And I always volunteer to take out. That's why I always kept working. I didn't look for nothing else.
You just kept wanting to work, volunteer. I'm the man.
Just go. And in Majdanek, they had a barrack just for toilets, and no doors, and even the shower, no showers, was holes in the ground for people sitting down, and it was all barrack just for toilets.
Oh my gosh. Ben, you're a hero by telling a story, you know that.
That's why I'm telling my story, and now with the antisemitism that comes out, could I read something without him seeing it?
I would love for you to read something.
I'll hold it low so you wouldn't see it.
Okay. That's fine. There we go.
I know by now that I survived the Holocaust to be a witness, record and speak up and tell others on the atrocities that took place in the hope of history should not repeat itself. The Holocaust should not be forgotten. We should speak up and fight back by confronting anti-Semitism, a rising tide around the world that is built on hatred, prejudice, that is contributing to racism, bigotry, atrocities, intolerance in all their forms, here and around the world. We should confront forcefully and uncompromisingly to stop the atrocities and persecution of people because of their religion and beliefs, in the hope that history should not repeat itself. Never forget the Holocaust. I've wrote a book, The Life of a Child Survivor from Białystok, Poland, on behalf of the millions who could no longer speak, but they'd been there and seen it. I'm the voice of their dead, burned bodies.
I just want to hug you. I can't stand this. Thank you, Ben. The book you can get on Amazon?
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes.
When did you write it?
In 1993.
1993.
I started at 1990. It took me 3 years to write it because it was very painful to put on what I went through. I was crying all the 3 years.
Ben, do you still cry now?
No.
No. After you wrote the book?
After I wrote the book, it's all gone, especially when I know this, my speaking out, speaking to schools, it'll give some help to the future generation.
That's exactly what Ruthie did. When we decided to write the book, it wasn't about where it's going to go. It's the fact that we didn't have to cry. But the problem is, after Ruthie passed away, when I hear other people, I can't help it, Ben. I can't help it because, number one, it brings back memories with my mother. But the good thing about it is that you give people hope. You are a voice. And what you've done is truly, truly one of the most generous things that a person can do. I said it once and I'll say it again. You are a hero. You're a Holocaust survivor and a hero because of what you went through, because of what you said, and because we have a book. I love you dearly, Ben. I love you so
Thank
much.
you.
And all I can say is bis 120, but I'm going to say 200. How's that?
80 years. I don't look for long.
No, you're amazing. Ben, it's been wonderful having you here. Let's blow a kiss to each other.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching.
Schluckgläsner in die Tatzen, wer wird Tatzen mich schatzen? Oi, oi, Gott ist
Bye,
größer, hat doch gewünscht mein Häuse, die mir sind gegeben, Häuse, wir sind ausgegeben, die wir sind ausgegeben. Starker, freilich, ich die Malke, du der Melech, oi, oi,